Good afternoon, this is Neil Spate, Thurrock Nub News, and I'm actually standing where once upon a time on a Saturday afternoon at this time there would be a huge sense of anticipation because I'm right in the middle of what used to be Grays Athletic Football Club's ground. As you can see from the I don't know what I was going to say memorial, but that's a bit unfair really because Grays is still going. The marker that says that this was the new wreck before it became housing development, and I'm going to shortly introduce you to a guy called Rob Seaman, who is a long-standing boy and man fan of Grays Athletic, and he's taking time out on his keeping fit routine just to pop by. So we're going to have a chat about the fact that a lot of Grays fans are pretty upset at some of the comments that were said at a planning meeting last Thursday when Grays might have got their hands on a football stadium to replace where we're standing now. It didn't happen, and some things were said that have upset a lot of people. But let's introduce you to Rob, and he'll tell you exactly why he and so many Grays fans are a little bit upset at the morning. Good afternoon, Rob.
Afternoon, Neil. How are you? First and foremost, I just want to say that I'm talking to you as a resident of Thurrock and also as a supporter of the club. I'm not here as an official of the club right now, but yeah, it was. Where to start on Thursday's meeting? I think now the dust has settled a little bit. I think it's given me time to kind of think about it, and I've rewatched the meeting several times. I mean, I've been in a unique position really, as have many, that the situation that we find ourselves in right now, that we are able to actually watch a planning meeting, and not many people would be able to go down to the council themselves and actually watch that meeting. To see it streamed live gives us kind of a unique look into the workings of the council and the planning committee especially. And I have to say, Neil, I, like many people that I've spoken to since that meeting, are absolutely shocked and appalled at the lack of facts, the lack of professionalism, and the complete misunderstanding of the recent history of Grays Athletic Football Club and how it was represented at that meeting.
Do you want to expound on that, or?
Yeah, I do. I do want to expand on that, and I don't want to get into too many details about it.
I mean, I think I should just tell people who don't know the meeting, the application that came up at Thursday's meeting was by a company called Group 1 Automotive, who wish to develop part of the land adjacent to the Thurrock football stadium. Their plan is to buy the whole package of land. I don't know whether that deal's been concluded or whether it's still owned by the South family, but that's sort of immaterial. The plan was they were going to use what are existing football pitches at the side of the main stadium for their site, and they were going to gift the stadium itself to Grays and the local community to be put to community use. And that was a move that was supported by Sport England because it was also in association with a donation to the council to help improve the pitches at Bella. So that was the football side of the application. There was an opposition to the whole scheme from a lot of people in Aveley. But we're not really talking about that. I think what we're talking about, Rob, is the attitude of some of the councillors.
Oh, absolutely. You know, these councillors hold so much power at their hands, and with that power, they can, you know, they have the power to transform the borough for future generations. And I really do think that they need to take a long, hard look at themselves, and especially look at how they research applications fully before making statements that are there for everybody to view. I mean, I speak in particular about Councillor Lawrence's statement, and she posed a question as to why Grays Athletic didn't, I think her words were, didn't they sell their ground, the Rec, where we're standing now? Why couldn't they use that money that they had from the sale of the Rec and buy this piece of land, buy this ground? Well, if she'd taken the time to actually research the information, she would have found that, I'm going to say this because I don't think many people actually understand the history of the sale of the Rec. So Grays Athletic leased the ground. They didn't own the ground, they leased it from the Billings family. The Billings family owned the new recreational ground, and Grays Athletic leased that land. In 2010, 2009 maybe, the Billings family upped the rent for the lease of the land. Grays Athletic could not afford that. Therefore, the Billings family sold the wreck for housing development. This was in 2010. Part of that agreement, or part of the promise, was that the 106 money from the sale of the recreational ground would go towards the funding for a new ground for Grays Athletic Football Club. Now, I know that the club asked Councillor Gerard Rice to investigate this in 2020, and the club posted a statement online on the club website in October of last year, stating that no money from the sale of the wreck went towards Grays Athletic Football Club. We did not receive a penny. £516,000 went to the Thurrock Council planning committees, well, not planning committees, but it went to the council, and that money was spread out through various sources. And you can go online, you can see that for yourself. You can go on the Grays Athletic website and you can see that statement there. That's been in public realm for 4 months. 4 months prior to this application took place, and she has the audacity to slander the name of this great club by suggesting that we pocketed the money and that we want a ground for free. Well, if we had all that money, why for the past 11 years have we been ground sharing? If we had that money, we would have bought a piece of land and we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would be in a ground of our own, being used by the community of Thurrock. I find it absolutely outrageous that, firstly, she didn't do her research, she didn't do her homework, and the other councillors around her agreed with her, which in turn means that they didn't do their research. They didn't do any fact-finding regarding the club. It's utterly, utterly outrageous, and I would expect a full public apology from Councillor Lawrence and the other councillors on that committee. They have a great deal of power. They didn't do their research. They didn't listen to the facts. In my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, they came into that meeting with a preconceived idea of what it was, the verdict that they were going to give. They gave that verdict, but they gave it not listening to the facts in place.
I think as well it's worth pointing out that the vice chairman of the club, a very well respected guy, Glyn Jarvis, Glyn had asked if he could speak at that meeting and expound on the club's position, and he did submit a written statement which hopefully was put before the councillors. I don't know whether it was. He was not allowed to speak. Now, there's an argument is there was one speaker for, one speaker against. The speaker for was an agent for Group 1, wasn't anybody to do with Grays Athletic Football Club, wasn't anybody to do with the borough. Then speaking against the application was Teresa Webster, who's the chair of the Aveley and Kennington's Community Forum. Now, Ward Councillor David Van Day, who was against the scheme, wanted to speak, and he wasn't allowed to either. Glyn wanted to speak, and he wasn't allowed to. Now, to me, as an observer, quid pro quo, if you had one against and one for, let them speak, and then you're getting more facts in the public domain. So I think there's an element that council should answer. Why cannot people with a vested interest speak at police planning meetings?
Absolutely, Neil. And I think the thing is, if Glyn had been allowed to speak, those untrue facts that were discussed in that meeting would have been put right, and they could have made a more informed decision on the application. Now, I understand that the Greenbelt, we should try and save our Greenbelt. I fully back that, 100%. The area where the land is situated, in my mind, yes, it's Greenbelt, but it's situated between the A13 and the M25. And I understand the Aveley residents' concerns. I do understand their concerns about HGV, but that's an ongoing issue, and Thurrock Council really need to sort that out as soon as possible to make sure that road is made safe and that HGVs don't go down
that issue still remains today. Regardless of the fact whether the application went through or it didn't, that HGV problem and the lack of enforcement, this is the problem, it's the lack of enforcement.
I totally agree. At least Auto One came up with a solution. I'm not saying it's the best solution, but they did put a solution in place of a turning point, which could potentially have alleviated that problem. Now, if we're looking at it from a planning point of view, then the Auto One application should have just been taken as that. Unfortunately, it became more about the football club than it did about the application. I'd like to add as well that Sports England
Highways England, Thurrock Council's own Highways Agency, and the Environmental Agency had no objection to that land being used as a car preparation centre. I also like to add as well that Councillor Fletcher brought up the fact, asked the question of how large was the car park going to be for the football club. Had the football club expanded that car park? Well, if you know your history around Thurrock FC, they ceased to exist in 2018, and as far as I'm aware, that car park hasn't been touched for many years, and I don't believe the capacity has changed for many years. Another councillor, I don't know his name off the top of my hat, said, well, we already have a football club in Aveley. Yes, you do, and it's a very good football club, and we ground share there, and we're very appreciative of Aveley Football Club for allowing us to ground share there. But at the same time, only 3 years ago, Thurrock FC were playing at Ship Lane. So can you not have two football clubs within a close vicinity of each other? Is that not allowed? I just think that the opportunity was missed, and I think that the facts were not researched. They guessed a lot of the information that was being said. The Chief Planning Officer was asked the question of how much would a 3G pitch cost. Now, Auto One, part of the proposal was to give the council £500,000 to replace the pitches that would be lost at Ship Lane, and that would be in the Bellis area. Now, I can tell you right now that he picked the number that he picked out off the top of his head. He guessed, and he did guess because he didn't have it down in front of him, was £900,000, which is ludicrous. A 3G pitch costs around £300,000 to £500,000 to lay.
Effectively, you see, what we're talking about is the carpet. That's because the rest of the structure is there.
The structure is there, but Auto One were saying, here's £500,000 to replace these pitches that will be lost as part of this new development. I understand the planning committee's concerns when it comes to HGVs and when it comes to pollution and when it comes to building on Greenbelt. But the following agenda, Councillor Lawrence said, this is item 8 on the agenda, said about the land that would have housing be built on it between Farmers College and Woodside. Well, it's just a strip of grass, isn't it? I mean, that's what we're up against. And these people need to be held to account. They hold great power. And without actually having the facts in front of them, how can you form an informative view? If I went for an interview and didn't know about the company that I was applying for, I would be seen as not finding out the knowledge beforehand. And that's exactly what they've done. They didn't find out the facts. They made statements that were hugely untrue about the football club. And in my opinion, they've slandered the good name of Grays Athletic Football Club, and nothing more than a full apology from Councillor Lawrence and the other councillors is acceptable. And I expect the council as well to look into this. I expect the council to go to the scrutiny committee and look into this.
I think the club chairman, Steve Skinner, is actually putting a formal letter of complaint in on behalf of the club.
So, and this isn't just my view, Neil. I follow Grays on Facebook and Twitter, and I've read hundreds of comments, literally hundreds of comments, and that's no word of a lie. Hundreds of comments saying how shocked and appalled they were at how this meeting was handled. The language that was used, the demeanour of the councillors, in a way it was pure arrogance that they think that they can just turn up and decline or approve something without prior knowledge of the application and everything that's part of the application. And Grays Athletic was part of the application. The Chief Planning Officer said it's not part of the application. Well, it is. It is part of the application. That football club, that ground now, will sit there idle. It will sit there idle. And it's a great ground. And we could have used it. And it could have benefited the entire community.
Well, I mean, whether Group 1 walk away or whatever, we don't know.
I don't know.
They basically said the threat that this is a one-time offer to the borough, and we're going if we're gone. So you never know what's round the corner. I think Steve said in his piece that he posted earlier on that there've been a number of false dawns for Grays Athletic over the past decade. Let's just hope that the next time there is a dawn, it is fulfilled. Thank you for your time, for speaking to me, putting the view of the fans. I know from the number of people that are watching this and have made comments already, and thank you for that, that this is a huge matter of local interest. As I say, best wishes to you and to all the people who support Grays Athletic, and as I say, it's approaching 3 o'clock. This is what we've got now. We've got houses where we used to have a top class football, non-league football club, a club that was only within a matter of minutes or 1 game or 2 games from being in the Football League at the zenith of its success. But as I say, thank you. Thanks to the Grays Athletic supporters for looking at Thurrock News and following this story. And please put your comments, as I'm sure you will, and we'll share them with everyone. Thank you very much.